Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Fox is going to come out of the gate, and they're going to broadcast Friday Night Football. Not Fox Sports 1, Fox. They're going to do a Friday night primetime college football game each week for the upcoming season.
And the games will be a combination of Big Ten, Big 12, and the Mountain West, which are the three properties they have. So it makes sense. Now, if you're saying, hey, will they be in Beaver Stadium? No. Will they be in Michigan? No. Will they be in Ohio State? No. Those three schools have already been adamant about home games on a Friday night. They've been adamant about it. Now, it doesn't mean they can't play a road game. Now, Penn State has played road Friday night games. They have played at Illinois. They have played at Maryland. And, of course, they had the NBC game on Black Friday against Michigan State at Ford Field in Detroit. So Penn State has played on Fridays before. You want to go way back on the Friday night thing, the famous game where Joe Paterno took out all the veterans and started playing his younger players at Miami in the Orange Bowl to kind of turn the program. That was a Friday night game. A lot of people don't realize that.
I didn't know that either.
Well, that's an entire show about what
did not know that.
What you don't know. You stun me sometimes with all the stuff you do know. It's amazing. But yeah, so Penn State's played on Friday nights, but they've always been away.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, for example, if you're looking at the Penn State schedule, say you're looking at the Penn State schedule, and you wanted to get Penn State on a Friday night if you're Fox, what Friday night game might you pick that schedule-wise fits Penn State?
I think there's a very good chance you pick that opening game.
Well, I'm not talking about that game.
You're talking about road games? What Friday nights?
Yeah, I mean, because they could carry that game because it is a Big 12 game. They could do it.
Yeah, I feel like they could send a statement with that too. Like, oh, here's our Friday night football, and you have really a premier game in that spot.
Right. That's one.
So I think that's a
good suggestion.
That's one I think. Obviously, you're not putting USC and Penn State on a Friday night.
No, but what's after USC?
Wisconsin.
Which follows a what?
Which follows a bye week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
See?
Yeah.
All right. I'm just saying. I mean, your West Virginia idea is not a good idea. It's a great idea.
Yep.
It's great. Now, playing at night down there.
Playing at night on a weeknight. The other drawback of that, too, I think that is a game where a lot of fans are going to travel there.
Yes, they will.
If you put it on a weeknight, a lot of fans are still going to travel there, but I think you're hurting that a little bit if you put it on a weeknight. Mm-hmm. I think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wisconsin, that's a good point. Absolutely.
I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there as to, if you're Fox and you're looking at a schedule saying, okay, like, I don't want to give a team a short week, especially one of our prime teams, right? And I don't know what the Wisconsin schedule is. I haven't looked at it to see who they play the week before. I haven't looked at it yet. But that'd be one. And by the way, if you're the home team, it's not as dramatic. If you're the road team, okay. I'm just saying, but your suggestion of West Virginia, excellent. Then there's this Wisconsin game that's sitting there after a bye week. Like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, as a possibility. Again, both road games. And they're going to do this on Friday night. Now, look, a lot of this is going to be Iowa playing at Maryland, Northwestern, and Rutgers. I mean, there's going to be several games like that. And then you'll have some Big 12 games mixed in there as well. And let's face it, a Mountain West game here and there. But remember, under this, if they do it, they say every Friday night, right? Every Friday night during the season. Remember, because of the calendar this year. Labor Day to Thanksgiving, it's a 14-week season. That's 14 of these they have to come up with, not 13. Now, do they count, for example, Iowa, Nebraska? Being in the afternoon?
I think that would help. I definitely think that helps.
I'm just throwing that out there. Does that count in all of this? Because they're already scheduled to play on Black Friday anyway. And, of course, NBC is going to want, and that could be one where they do their Friday thing, but NBC has the Black Friday night game like they did this year. You are going to be helped out by the West Coast teams on this.
Absolutely.
This is where they come into play in that it's a Friday night or a Saturday in November. And X is playing a game in the Rose Bowl against UCLA. It may not be 75 degrees, but it's going to be in the 50s, and it's palatable. Okay? Same thing. X is going to play at USC. Saturday night game. Because, you got to remember, Fox is going to do a Friday night game, big noon kickoff, then CBS has the 3:30 game, NBC has the primetime game on Saturday night. Man, that's a lot of Big Ten football. Now, not all these games will be Big Ten. The Big 12 will be there. So you could have, suddenly Colorado's playing at Arizona on a Friday night. Or Arizona's at Colorado on a Friday night. Get Dion on TV. And you could have the Mountain West as a mix-in as well, where suddenly Colorado State's playing San Diego State.
I think I may have found one that is a very good chance Penn State gets. Minnesota and Penn State both off the week of November 16th. You could put that November 23rd. Minnesota off the week of November 16th. I think you can probably put that game at US Bank Stadium as a possibility.
You could.
Yeah. However, it's a Friday. That's a November night game again.
Yeah, and Penn State plays the week before. They play Washington, right?
Purdue, I think the 16th. Washington be the 9th. Yeah, Ohio State, Washington are back-to-back. Purdue be the 16th.
Okay, so you're talking about this the 23rd.
Yeah, and Minnesota's off. So I think there's a chance there. Minnesota's off.
But you don't worry so much about the home team being off. It's
the road team.
It's the road team you need to have off. It's not the home team being off is not an issue, right? The issue is the road team because they're the ones that have to travel the day before. Right, so you have to travel on a Thursday. Mm-hmm. So you don't want them playing on a Saturday, traveling on a Thursday, playing Friday. Right? Yeah. You want to work it out in such a way where, okay, guess what? Everything's fine.
Yep.
And you can do it. So it's the road team that you think about.
Yeah. So that Wisconsin does make the most sense then. I think there's a chance.
Because you don't worry about the home team getting a short week. They're home.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. So that's. Yeah, I just think there's always some kind of twist when you put a premier team in there. I say US Bank there. Maybe you put Wisconsin at Lambeau. Well, you're getting close to NFL. We'll see the Packers schedule, but you put it at Lambeau or you do something like that just because, well, you know what, November or late October in Lambeau would be big trouble. But there's always some kind of twist they throw in there.
Yeah.
But I do think Wisconsin is, that is the one makes the most sense now that I look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or West Virginia because it's the opener.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I still feel like I do think there's a chance they do play that West Virginia game on a weeknight. But I also feel like I also feel like there is going to be a lot of fans traveling to that game. That's why I think and there still will be if you play it on a Thursday, on a Friday, whenever you play it. But I think if you play it that game on a normal Saturday, even if it's noon, you're going to have a lot of fans traveling there for a Saturday game.
Well, now keep in mind, people have talked about Thursday as well because ESPN can do it. Because remember, ESPN still has the Big 12 contract.
Yeah.
And that's something to be thought of. And I thought about this the other night. watching Purdue and Illinois on Peacock. Yeah, I did. I watched some of it. I don't know how much the Peacock thing is helping.
Yeah, I think it's.
I mean, that's again. I know it's a forward-thinking play. I've got that, but to me, the streaming thing is interesting because in some ways, believe it or not, if you do the research on it, streaming is stalled.
Yeah, it has.
And that's what I find interesting about it. That's why when I look at, so let's go back to the Friday night game between Penn State and Michigan State at Ford Field. NBC had it. Well, so did Peacock.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
that's fine when you do that.
Right. So when you're doing a combination of that, your odds are that you're reaching the largest possible
Right.
audience. CBS, Paramount Plus, you're reaching the largest audience where you're taking care of both constituencies at once. To me, that's the smart strategy, right? Not this. We're going to take the Chiefs and Dolphins and put it on Peacock.
Yeah.
Okay, people are already. I'm going to pay for that. You're already paying enough.
Sure are.
Right? And that's the part that strikes me about it. It's like people are already paying. Oh, I got to get Peacock now for a month. I know it's only $5.99, but well, guess what?
People are paying enough for their
Right,
cable.
they're
People are
already-
paying enough for their satellite.
They're already paying enough for their streaming services. I mean,
Absolutely.
sit down and start adding up all your numbers on streaming services. Yeah, that's what strikes people is that suddenly they'll add it up and it's pretty close to their cable bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's the part that a lot of people have been sitting down and saying, "Hey, wait a minute, that's pretty close to what I'm paying for cable."
Right. Yeah, and I also think the NFL is the one where it feels like, yeah, there's arrogance to it, but I understand it. I know I don't understand it, but there's arrogance to it because of the money they pull in, number one. They have the mentality that, and Roger Goodell, notorious for it, is the mentality, okay, we're right, we're absolutely right. They're not going to tell you they were wrong, moving Sunday Ticket off of a satellite service and putting it on a streaming, which I think they were, because they showed that really over the summer where they finally had to call Xfinity and call DirecTV and say, hey, we need some help here because we're not getting the subscription we thought we were going to get. So I think part of that is the NFL saying, oh, we were right with streaming. We're going to show you in the playoffs and put one of the biggest games of the playoffs in the opening round, if not the biggest, on streaming. College football, thankfully, I think NBC, for the most part, has not done that. I think they have put Peacock-only games, but they have done, and again, no disrespect to Delaware. Delaware is not Ohio State. So I think you're putting those games on there.
Your subtle shots at programs are
I would have taken a shot at UMass too, either one of them.
very subtle shots.
But and I also think, yes, the argument's going to be, well, Caitlin Clark was on Peacock a lot. I don't know if they anticipated the phenomenon that Caitlin Clark was, and she's an incredible. I think they absolutely expected ratings. I don't fully think this time last year you were putting the schedules together, thinking, my goodness, you did not anticipate what she was going to bring. That I think is the other part of it. But I think college sports, so far, they're drawing a little bit of people away with the streaming, but they've done it right. They've taken baby steps into it, whereas the NFL is jumping into the pond completely after Amazon, where, okay, we're going to go on YouTube TV, we're going to go on Apple, whoever takes us as a streaming service, and we're going to shove it down everybody's throat. Yeah. I don't think that's the way to do it, and I do think there's a chance that can come back to hurt you in a big way.
Yeah, so that's what's going to, at least what we're seeing with that. But that came out yesterday. I was like, okay, got it.
Now, they wouldn't make...
As I told you, I said, I don't really worry too much about what day anything is.
No,
because
for the fans, it matters.
I'm always thinking about the fans. I mean, I'm working, so whenever they tell me to
Yeah.
show up at work, I
Yep.
show up at work. That's fine.
Now, they probably would not, I assume at least, put Penn State or any other team on a Thursday night game and then another Fox Friday night game twice in 1 year. I would hope not.
You'd hope not.
I know TVs dictate everything. I get that, but I would hope they would not do that.
Well, for goodness sakes, you got 18 choices.
Yeah, you do.
All right, come on.
But
and remember, you now have USC in the mix, and you now have UCLA in the mix, and you now have
that's going to help
Oregon
the
in mix.
November, like you said, help the November night games in a big way.
And then Washington's in the mix, so you got a lot more choices here, right? And you do have more games to choose from, which is that's fine. And I think that's that's going to be part of it. I mean, anything.
Now they're still going to push.
I mean, look, you're sitting there doing high school football on a Friday night, and I completely understand why Fox wants to drive you out.
Well, yeah. Well, that is the other.
Your name came up several times.
I know. How about it? Can you believe that? They even thought about putting Gus and Joel on this Friday night. No, they didn't.
Just to crush you.
But I think that is an interesting point, though, where you bring up high school, because you sort of force parents to make decisions, though, in that kind of spot.
That is what.
Yeah.
Okay. That is what Penn State talks about all the time.
Yeah.
As does Ohio State.
Absolutely.
And Michigan about, hey, look, Friday night is for high school football.
Yeah.
I'd be the first one to scream that to the top of the hills, and yet I am the one that is guilty of it.
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah.
Because I sit there on a Friday night and I will watch a college football game. And, so I may sit there and say, now, will I go to a high school football game maybe once during the course of the fall? Yeah, I'll do that. Do I occasionally watch some high school football on PCN or what Joe or Brian do on with the
JC,
the Channel 6 group, whatever it's called. Yeah, I'll watch some of those games, and I do from time to time. Do I listen to your broadcast? No, I just want to know what's going on. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. That's a joke.
That's why they turn me down and then Adam back up when he talks. Back me down, Adam back.
God, Sheets is good.
It's real good.
Boy, is Sheets
real good.
Look at
real
him.
good.
I'm a little concerned about that guy he's working with. But because you guys do a great job. I mean, so when I'm in the car, I'm definitely listening. But this is, that's what makes this such an interesting proposition. Will I be somebody that says, hey, high school football belongs to Friday night?
Yeah.
Will I be the person that goes out and then says, oh, by the way, hey, it's a pretty good game tonight. I might watch that.
Yeah,
okay.
Same exact way.
All right, so
you put an NFL game on a Friday for the first time this year, and I thought, well, it's not a bad idea. I thought, I looked at it like, oh, it's terrible. Penn State plays that day. And then it happens. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So, hey, that's why you end up being the hypocrite.
Big time. Absolutely.
I think, and then you go out and do the opposite. Oh, well. So that's going to be coming up. That is Friday night. And they're going to have one. And again, it's not all Big Ten. They're going to have selections from the Big 12. They're going to have selections from the Mountain West. So let's just say they divide it up into thirds. That means that a good chance you'll have 5 Big Ten games on, 5 Big 12s, and 4 Mountain West.
Yeah.
Hey, it works. We'll see how it works. But again, it's another TV window. But remember, too, when it comes to TV windows, because of an 18-school conference, there are more schools to fill the 18 schools. The TV windows. Yeah, that's it. So the logic is there. And if you're Fox, remember this too, and I don't want to have this be excluded from this. When the decision was made, like, hey, look, Oregon and Washington need a landing spot. We have already vetted them, which they did. They vetted them 1 year before. I said, hey, what do you think? Let's get a couple travel partners out there for USC and UCLA, and maybe make their life easier. And they went to Fox, and Fox, the way the story goes, ponied up the extra money at half shares to get them in. Well, since they ponied up the money on half shares, right? Well, guess what? You have now won the right to carry more games, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they picked Friday night. I mean, so there is a logic to it,
sure,
as to why. There is a logic to it. Logic doesn't usually make its way to this show, but yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add? Sounds like you're ready to jump in there with something profound.
No, I actually think it's going to be interesting. As you said, I think the biggest part of it, biggest part is also the fact that you have the 18 teams now. As you said, you have now the opportunity for, you have a lot of choices, and you don't necessarily have to have every team on Friday night, too. Right. That's the other part of it, where, right, you're looking at it now, and absolutely, you are not necessarily, well, you're not in any way monopolizing the Big Ten, because you have the two other major networks taking them. So I think that's a big spot, really, where you can work with the other networks, and I think it's going to pay off. I do think, Friday night football, for especially, you talk about it, where I think it could help is the West Coast part of it, because then,
sure,
if you put that aspect into it, number one, obviously the warmer weather, but the other part of it is
the warmer weather in Southern California.
Okay. Not in Washington. When
you get to November, Oregon and Washington, it's cold.
No, it does. Sure does. But I think that does help it a little bit, and I think there is the chance. Did they confirm Friday Night Football have a specific 8:00 start time every week? Did they confirm that?
They didn't say that.
I was going to say that could be another. West Coast game can be potentially a later start, so you watch high school and then come home and watch that. So there's a lot of things.
They're very thin on details. It doesn't mean the game can't be at 10:30 at night. Where it's a 7:30 start out there, or look, if 7:30 be 4:30 out there. All right. Lady Lion basketball team took apart Wisconsin yesterday.
Sure did.
They have now won 3 consecutive games, and they've been impressive in all 3 games. So what is now going to happen? Well, now we'll start with this. They've got Iowa today at 6:30. Iowa has a pretty good guard they're going to have to keep some handle on. I'm trying to think who that is.
Yeah.
And
that one that's already selling out WNBA games.
Yeah. But you know how I view things. I don't view things as, they're an underdog or whatever.
No.
I always view everything as opportunity. Opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, they have an opportunity.
Big time.
They win tonight. In my opinion, they are a lock.
Oh, there's no question. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
tournament. Absolutely.
Now, I think
probably in now.
Last night, I think may have helped get them in, and by walking on the court tonight,
I agree.
Just by walking on the court, they're actually going to get some domino.
Yeah.
I mean, for the lack of a better term, it's because they use net now, but what would be referred to in the old days as domino RPI.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Well, just by walking on the court with them, their strength of schedule automatically goes up. And keep them, this is the other part, too, is a lot of people don't realize. And that's why I'm a little confused as to why Penn State was the second team out. You know what Penn State's net is in women's basketball? It's 25. How can you have a 25 net and be considered to be, now this is going into the Wisconsin game, the second team out? Mm-hmm. Are you kidding me? If you're 25, you should be in. You should be at worst a 9 seed.
Yeah, I agree.
So I am confused by what the seeding predictions are. Yeah, do they have a 6-game losing streak? Sure. But remember, we're not taking this is not going back to the old days of what you do the last 12 games. It's the full season of work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they bounced back now with 3 straight wins. And
they were competitive, too. It took Ohio State to overtime. USC, they were competitive.
Yeah.
This is definitely a team that is a tournament team, in my opinion. And I think you're competitive tonight. I don't think there's any question you're in. I think you're in right now, but I think if you're competitive even tonight, I don't think there's any question. They've got to do a better job on Stolke as much as they do on Clark. I think that
Stolke,
is
Stolke crushed them last night. He had like 48
time.
points or something like that.
Yeah.
There's only so much attention that you can pay to one player,
right?
When you're on the floor, and there's no question that when you look at how they play, I mean, Mitchell's a good player, Stolke's a good player. And obviously Clark is an exceptional player, legitimately great player. But I think you've got to, you know what? To me, I think you take your chances. No, I'm not going to, I mean, I know Carolyn plays some zone and things like that. But you know what? I just take a player and I put her on her and go, like Leilani Kapanis.
Mm-hmm.
Go out there and do the best you can with her.
Do the best you can on her. Absolutely. You're not going to stop her.
Get right in her face. And everybody else, take care of your person.
Yeah.
Take care of your person.
I agree.
Right? You can put so much on one, where you're starting to double and run people and things like that, that other people are now getting open. Because the issue with Clark is quite simple. If she were just a shooter, you could run extra people at her.
Mm-hmm.
But because she's a great passer who sees the floor so well, the second person you run at her is leaving somebody, and Clark will find that somebody. Nebraska showed a lot of people, like, you get up in her grill with one person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they shut her out in the fourth quarter.
Sure did.
Right? I mean, this is the amateur coach in me coming out.
Yeah, but
I would take a long, hard look at, you know what? Hey, she gets 40, she gets 40. But I'm going to make sure everybody else out there gets 35.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Gino Auriemma is notorious. I think when you look at what he's done when he coaches and game plans, he's a master in the sense that I'm not going to pay special attention to X, but I'm going to make sure that I am on X enough that she's not beating us, and we're going to make sure everybody else takes care of themselves. He's a complete master of that. He's done it to Penn State and several. Took Mazzani out of the game absolutely in the semi or the quarterfinal
up in Hartford.
At Hartford. Yep, took Maggie Lucas out of the game when they played.
Yep.
Last time they played each other at Stores. So absolutely a master at that, and he's always been. But that's the approach he's taken a lot of times.
But Mazzani was a good passer. Maggie Lucas was a good passer. Yeah. Caitlin Clark, to her credit, is an exceptional passer.
Phenomenal.
All right, so that's what I'm talking about. When you face somebody that's an exception, I mean, what they did was Nebraska. They got in her grill. Yeah, all right, and it is the equivalent of what they did. The equivalent of what they did is very much what teams would attempt to do with Tom Brady. where did Brady have a struggle? Like any quarterback, when somebody came up the middle
under pressure,
in the face. But they've got that tonight at 6:30. I will be locked in watching that game tonight.
Absolutely. Same.
And then tomorrow it's wrestling. Huge down at Maryland. You also have, by the way, here tomorrow, men's lacrosse with Cornell. Had Jeff Tambroni on the show last night. They play at noon tomorrow over at Panzer Stadium. And that should be terrific. And then in hockey, Penn State's at Minnesota. But, so that's another big weekend coming up. And then Sunday night, it's Penn State and Maryland. When you look at Jameer Young and Ace Baldwin, great matchup there. Both are in the top 3 in minutes per game in the Big Ten. Both have probably benefited more than anybody else in the fact that this was a bye week for both teams, because at least they were able to get some sleep. Yeah. Mike did not practice the team Sunday or Monday. He then had a no-contact practice on Tuesday, did not go Wednesday, went full bore yesterday. They'll go full bore again today. He's never had a bye week this late in the season. But I think the way he's handled it is exactly the way you should handle it. I think he's given them some time off. He knows at the end of the week they get back, which is where they are now, to getting into those practices that then sharpen you to get ready for the game. And you go from there. Winning the game would go a long way to getting Penn State out of Wednesday. You don't want to play on Peacock Day. That's what I refer to it as. Gary Dolphin thought that was a riot. He sees Iowa's play-by-play guy. He says, yeah, you don't want to play Peacock Day. He goes, Peacock Day? I says, yeah, Wednesday. He goes, oh, he says, that's good. He says, I wish I'd said that.
That is a good one.
All right. And so you want to get as much out of that as possible. Now, that will be 7:30 on Sunday night. And again, I know TV dictates all this, but are you kidding me? That's the last game of the whole conference season at 7:30 on a Sunday night. Oh, and by the way, the team that doesn't win the game probably has to play Wednesday.
Yeah.
Come on. Now, they don't know that when they put the schedule together, but that shows no common sense.
No. You're going to have an evening game put at 5 o'clock. No reason you couldn't. It's a Sunday.
You should not be having a Sunday night game.
Shouldn't be. No. 5 o'clock to be the absolute latest you could have.
On the last day of the regular season, you should not be having a Sunday night game. It's unfair to the two teams that are playing because the conference tournament's coming up and you don't know what the standings say.
Agreed.
I just don't get it sometimes. I swear they throw darts and this is what they come up with. So I don't know.
I agree.
I mean, but you know what? Okay, but here I will say this though. What did I just say about football? I don't care what day it is, what time it is.
Sure.
It's your job. You go to work. Okay, well, that's the attitude they have to take. Okay, it's 7:30 on Sunday night. I'm just talking from a conference point of view. I don't get it. Now, from a player and coach point of view, hey, it says 7:30. Hey,
you gotta be there.
Okay, get ready. Let's go. It doesn't matter what time it starts. They've had the whole week off. I mean, they haven't had to go to classes all week because it's spring break, and it is. It should be an interesting game. Maryland is a really good defensive team. Maryland in the adjusted defense is 7th in the country in the KenPom rankings. They are also not a high-tempo offensive team. Their adjusted tempo is about 65 possessions a game. Penn State's about 70 to 71. All right, so Penn State wants to move more. Maryland kind of gears the tempo down a little bit. Young is a terrific player, just really good. Dante Scott is a good inside-out bigger player. Julian Reese, very good around the basket. Takari Long has been playing a little bit more, even start. Well, now the last game as a senior, maybe a senior start, but I mean, he had double figures. He had 12 against Indiana. But offensively has been a struggle for this team. I know they scored 78 against Indiana, but that hasn't been their norm. When we talk about them being 7th in the country in defensive ranking, they are 161 in offense, right? And they have had trouble shooting the ball. And when you're looking at the points per possession, their points per possession happen to be lower than Michigan's. So then I looked at, okay, well, let's just see about the road numbers. You know, Michigan hasn't had Doug McDaniel on the road for 6 games this year because of the internal suspension, right? And Michigan's road points per possession are higher than Maryland's. So, I mean, that's the part that's been a struggle for them. Defensively, they're terrific. Defensively, they're a terrific team. Offensively, it's been a fight for them. And that's what you'll see on, let's see how that plays out on Sunday night in the Jordan Center at 7:30, and Dick and I will be on at 7 o'clock. Big games this weekend. Kansas-Houston playing at 4 o'clock on Saturday. That's down at Houston. And then Duke and North Carolina at Cameron at 6:30 on Saturday night. And that'll be opposite the Big Ten Wrestling Championships. Saturday night would be the semifinals, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it should be semifinals, right?
Yeah. And we'll see, A, how Carter Strachey is, and then B, what the approach is.
The approach is going to be, I think, is the biggest thing. Absolutely.
We'll find out. So there you go. There it is. How about Jake Gensel getting traded?
I saw that.
Hi, yeah. Really? Jake Gensel got traded?
How about it?
Right. Wow.
I'm very surprised.
Okay, that is the white flag right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's Russell Wilson talking with the Steelers and the Giants. Oh, boy.
The Giants. Yeah, I'll tell you, I'll tell you, it's interesting. First of all, I think the Broncos as a whole, I'm not just talking about Russell Wilson, I think Sean Payton has hurt himself in a big way that last year with that franchise. They've got to turn it around, and it's on him at this point. I think that's clear as day.
Well, it starts with his criticism of Nathaniel Hackett.
Yep.
Right? There's no need for that.
No, I agree. Yeah, I fully agree. And that's I think, one big thing. And,
just do your job.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's how he was in New Orleans. That's the other part with Sean Payton. And now he's got a lot to prove. He doesn't have Drew Brees under center in Denver right now, no matter who the quarterback's going to be. And, it's interesting with, I think the Steelers with Russell Wilson. It's going to be interesting because are you truly going to have that competition with Kenny Pickett, which I'm not so sure you are if you sign Russell Wilson. I think depending on the contract you're going to have to give him, I'm not so sure. But interesting with the Giants because it takes, it's the old, was it Fletch, where he said, it takes a big man to admit he's wrong. I'm not a big man. I think that's pretty much really where the Giants are going right now. I think they know they probably should not have locked up Daniel Jones to what they did. And now you're scrambling a little bit, but you're at least admitting, to your fan base, look, we made a mistake here. We've got to be better.
Nobody could tell.
Yeah. I think you admire, you don't forgive it, but you at least look over.
That's what Denver did. Yeah. Denver admitted they made a mistake.
Absolutely. But Denver also has overhauled a lot of things prior to Russell Wilson and now post Russell Wilson, where I think you're blowing up a lot of things that is going to make it interesting. And that's why I think more so Denver than the Giants. I think the Giants are in a lot better shape at the moment than Denver is. I think Denver at this point, everything is going to be trusted into Sean Payton right now.
Right.
I'm not sure anybody else is running anything not named Sean Payton there.
Right. By the way, did you see West Virginia gave Neil Brown a contract extension through 2027?
Nice.
Yeah, he took a pay cut.
Took a pay cut.
And also they reduced the buyout.
That's a hint.
According to the new contract, Brown will be owed 75% of his remaining salary if fired any time during the term.
Sure.
His buyout to West Virginia, if he leaves for another job, drops from 25% to 12.5%. And at the end of the contract, the last 2 years, it's 10%. And again, he took a pay cut. Okay. Now, Neil is not taking a vow of poverty here. And believe it or not, he's doing just fine. It's just going to be a little bit less money than before. He had been set to earn $4.1 million for the upcoming season, but they rolled some of those numbers back on him. Then there's Arch Manning. He has opted out of the EA Sports game.
Saw this.
All right. So, you know darn well that if you're a Texas fan,
Yeah.
and you buy the game, and he opts in,
Yeah.
how many times are you yanking Quinn Ewers and you're putting Arch Manning in?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how you project how he's going to play. He barely did anything last year. I mean, how many snaps did he take?
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, what are his stats? I mean,
He didn't do much.
I mean, when Ewers got hurt, he didn't play.
He didn't play. Yeah.
I mean, and where did the other quarterback transfer to? Because the other quarterback transferred.
Did he join Manny? Did he go to Duke?
Yeah, you're right. He did. Yeah, he played in 2 games last year. He was 2 of 5 for 30 yards. He rushed 3 times for 7. How in the heck can you put him in the game and project how he's going to play? I mean, really? How do you project? Look at his high school career? I mean, okay.
Yeah. And I think from the outside looking in, I think he'll regret it. I think this is sometimes, and we talked about this on the show. And sometimes it's fun for these athletes to look at themselves on the TV, in this case in the video game, and say, "Hey, check it out."
I don't think he wants to look at himself in the video game.
No.
He hardly played.
No. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
I mean,
he claims he does his stats on the field and not on the screen. Whatever.
All of his stats were in the Texas Tech game in the fourth quarter of a blowout. That's it.
Yep.
Like, okay. I can understand.
Yep.
I can understand how he's like, geez. Like, you wonder if he's embarrassed about being in the game. Now, keep in mind, that's why they ask you to opt in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, am I going to be critical of his decision to opt out? Of course not. That's what makes me laugh. People criticize him for opting out. Why are you criticizing him for opting out? They give you a choice. He decided not to be in it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's his choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right?
Yeah.
I mean, coming out of high school, did he expect to be the number 2 quarterback someplace? Or in this case, 3?
3. Yeah.
Did he expect to be the 3rd string quarterback? I mean, honestly. That's the part you know, for him, that's the hard part.
Absolutely.
It's like when Ewers went to Ohio State. Do you know how many people, I'd say maybe like 24 people came out to me, "Oh, Ewers at Ohio State." I said, "He's never going to play. What are you talking about?"
No.
I said, "He'll be the 4th string quarterback. He'll be on scout team." And they looked at me like I was nuts. Like, Well, yours is really good, but at Ohio State, guess what he
Ohio State had
was?
plenty of better players.
He was the fourth-string quarterback. He was on scout team. He got into one game and handed the ball off, I think. And that was it. All right? I said, I didn't expect him to I expected him to never play, and I expected him to transfer. He only did it because of reclassification so he could get NIL money.
Absolutely.
And the Ohio State people, when I talked to them about when he left, they were furious. They're like, God, that kid used us. I said, welcome.
Yeah, he did.
I said, welcome to the real world.
Mm-hmm.
I said, welcome to the real world. I said, that's the world we're facing right now. Right? I said, I work with a guy where it's all about him.
Jack would never appreciate you saying that.
I wasn't talking about Jack. I wasn't talking about Dick.
Joe. Joe. Oh, man. Poor Joe.
Could I revise your statement? The first step to healing is admitting the problem. Just come on, just say it's you. Well, I hope you have a great weekend. I'm sure you got big plans. Normally, you got a lot of parties going on.
I'll be watching the Lady Lions tonight. Penn State wrestling on the weekend.
Yeah,
Penn State basketball.
Me too. Me too.
That's my plans. And hockey.
I think I'm going to slip out to Panzer at some point and watch some lacrosse too this weekend. It should be great.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, all right. Big week. Talked a lot of TV today. Let's face it. Like, why'd you talk TV? Because what do you watch?
What do you watch? What do you know? What's the next question you ask? Oh, what time's that? Who's playing?
Right. Exactly. All right. We'll see you. Get a chance to see as many of you as possible Sunday night in the Jordan Center. Thanks for joining us on 7